Too, because you say that you were self-harming a lot. Did your mom ever notice?
No, people knew.
They just didn't care?
Yeah, I think people just didn't care, or they didn't know how to address it.
Yeah.
I think the first time a teacher at the order school saw it, and I showed her as like a kind of like a cry for help without realizing what I was doing. And she kind of just laughed and was like, "Don't do that." And I was like, oh. Yeah, I don't know. I think most people just didn't really talk about it, or the people that did talk about it just said, "Don't do that."
Yeah, I do remember people would say things like, "Oh, anyone who does that is just seeking attention." And I'm like,
oh yeah, that was a big narrative too.
It's so, I don't know. I can't stand how it's always how they handle situations which were our cries for help is they make it worse. Like they're always time and time again just making the situation worse on each victim. I'm trying to give your mom grace because she's also in a traumatic situation, but at the same time it's like I feel in my brain like shame on you for
I don't hate her. That's for sure.
Where are you at with her in your brain?
I grew up hating her. And that's sad to admit, but
I think most of us grow up hating our parents, even on the outside.
But I think I got to a point, especially with like the foster care system, I got to a point where I was able to recognize that my mom was a victim. She was married at 15, and I didn't understand the situation. I wasn't there, but based on what I had learned and what I'd heard from other people, she didn't necessarily want to get married to Daniel at that age. So I learned to see her as a victim, and I kind of got to a point where, because I saw her as a victim, I didn't hate her anymore, but I didn't see her as her. I saw her as kind of a puppet who is
being controlled by
Daniel. Yeah, for sure, being controlled by Daniel, but I also felt like she was a victim for so long that she eventually lost herself. And so I would sum it down and explain it to people by saying that she became like a soulless puppet, to where everything that she did that I didn't like, it wasn't her doing that, it was the influences around her, and it was the fact that she wasn't able to escape, and the fact that she was traumatized to that extent.
Yeah.
So now when I say like I don't have a good relationship with my mom, it's I don't think I ever met my mom. I don't.
It's been half an hour. Okay.
I don't think my mom was herself by the time I was alive.
That's such a good way of putting it. I don't think I've ever heard anyone explain it in that well, honestly, because that's such a good point. I feel bad
for my mom. Like that's the thing. Like when I say like I don't have a good relationship with her and I don't love her, but there have been times where I would cry because I wish I could have that relationship, or I wish my mom wasn't in such a shitty situation that she doesn't get to be herself and she doesn't get to have a relationship with me. I learned to see my mom as a victim and to stop hating her for the situation she was put into against her will, as far as I'm concerned. But I also have that separation of I don't feel bad for my mom for what she does now. Like the last time that I spoke to my mom in person was when I filmed that video. And
really?
Yeah. So it was Christmas, and I was gonna turn 18 the next year in March. But so I was 17, and it was like this thing where it was like I just wasn't going back to the order. Everyone knew that. And so my mom had finally told me, well, Daniel told me first, but my mom had finally told me basically I'm not welcome in the family anymore, and I'm not welcome in the house. I am not one of her kids anymore. And it was like super heartbreaking, and I hate that my mom did that. And I know that, because at first I was like, well, that's just Daniel saying this. But then my mom said it to me without Daniel around. And so then I was like, okay, now my mom is actually saying this. This is her saying this.
She's actively telling me, her daughter, that she doesn't want me ever coming back home.
Yeah,
So
she's actively
like
disowning
goodbye?
me. That was essentially the last time I spoke to her in person, unless it was like in court. And I didn't even speak to her, she just was there. in court. But that was the last time I spoke to my mom in person, and in my head I'm like, I don't really know how to explain it, but it's like, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh well, she's a victim and she didn't mean it, she's just in a situation where that's all she can say, so I'm still gonna try to have a relationship. I'm still gonna reach out to her.
Regardless of her being a victim, right? That doesn't make it right that she did that to you.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you deserved that.
Essentially, it got to a point where I'm like, okay, yes, she is a victim, and I'm able to understand that, but she's still an adult, and she is still making these decisions, and as much as I hate to say it, she should take accountability for what she does.
Yeah.
And if she doesn't take accountability, I'm not going to take it for her.
Yeah.
I'm not going to justify or make excuses for her because what she did was still not okay.
Exactly. I've had this thought of like, it was so hard for me when my mom did it on my birthday. It was on your birthday too. Okay, so yeah, mine was my 18th
It was on
birthday.
Christmas.
Oh, okay,
I was
Christmas.
about to turn 18.
Okay, so holidays. Is Christmas hard for you now because of that? Yeah.
It got to a point where I hated Christmas because the last Christmas I had, I was disowned by my family. Now I'm starting to learn to love Christmas again, but I just like, winter is my favorite season, and I just like the idea of giving gifts to people that you care about. To me, that's just it's a fun excuse to celebrate, basically.
Yeah, I feel like I'm finally starting to like it again, because yeah, for the last however long, it's like, oh, I'm not allowed to go back home for Christmas because my family hates me.
And especially with like the stereotypical Christian view of Christmas is like spending time with your family, like especially in foster care, all of the Christmas movies, at the end of the day, with no matter how bad things were, you still had your family.
You're like, what about me? Yeah, and really for the first few years out of the order, it was like being reminded that I don't have a family, because everyone else is like shoving their family in my face. And like obviously you want to be happy for everyone else that gets to have that, but it feels, especially when it's a wound that's still healing.
Envious for a while, yeah.
It's like you couldn't enjoy it because there's like this hole that's never going to be filled because you don't get that, you only have that one family. But yeah, I went through a very similar experience of like when my mom disowned me, and I had to come to the realization of, it's weird. I, for a long time, was like, oh, she's a victim, she doesn't mean it. And I would forgive her, and like run at her beck and call, which I didn't realize was me disrespecting myself and allowing her to disrespect me and like call me when she needed me, but the phone was never picked up when I needed her. Very toxic relationship.
I've always considered myself to be a very forgiving and understanding person, but I can only give so many chances before I'm just letting myself be eaten alive. Yeah.
And something I learned was I don't even know if I should have even given the one chance. You know what I mean? Like, it's not selfish to put a boundary up.
Like with going back and living with my mom for 5 months, like that was literally my last chance that I gave them. That was my last chance.
But sometimes I do think you mentally need to do that so that you can live with yourself. Like I tried. Yeah. I did try.
I did want to actually know for sure that I tried and that I was doing everything that I could and that it wasn't my fault. Because for so long I felt like it was all my fault because they're so good at putting the blame on you.
They don't ever take the accountability. It's always your fault.
Yeah.
Every time someone leaves, I say this to any order members watching, isn't it interesting that it's always the child leaving's fault? It's never the parent's fault. It's so crazy. No one ever takes accountability.
They victim blame. They don't take accountability.
Yeah, and that's why the order has such a hard time growing and progressing, because the ones in the leadership positions are never being held accountable. Crazy, because we all believe that we're the chosen ones, we're going to heaven, yet there's still members in the order that are ostracized, that are bullied, this family's bad, this family's good. Everyone wants to marry into the higher ups, which is Paul's family. There's all these like little cults inside of the cult. Yeah. Very toxic. And it's such an interesting dynamic because even Daniel's own wives, he can have one that's bad and one that's favorite and good.
From what I understood growing up, it wasn't like, oh, we're in the order, so we're going to go to the highest
kingdom of heaven.
Yeah, kingdom of heaven. It was, we're in the order, so we have the option to go into the highest kingdom of heaven. but it still depended on like how you lived your life and how obedient you were and how perfect you were.
But didn't you, in my brain, maybe we're different, I was like, well, I'll at least get to the lowest degree of heaven because I'm in the order. That's how I always felt.
I never felt that way.
Really? Because they have the 3 degrees of heaven, right?
I felt like, and maybe it's just hard for me because I was so young when I was literally being told I was possessed and that there was no hope for me and that I was going to hell.
And you did leave at 15?
13.
13, yeah.
But like in my head, it was like the highest degree of heaven is an option to me only because I was born in the order, but I can still go to hell. And I have to get enough good marks in heaven to outweigh the bad marks. And that would determine what level I go to.
That is true, because I do remember with the baptisms they would say at 8 your slate is, once you're baptized, your slate's clean and it's like you washed away all your sins. But then they would talk about how when you sin and repent, sinning is like the hole, you're hammering a nail in the wall. When you repent, you pull the nail out of the wall, but there's still the hole. Do you remember this analogy?
Yeah, something like that.
Basically a way to guilt the members into doing the right things.
The way I visualized it was like he just had like a chalkboard with all these marks on it. So if I do something really bad, I get 5 marks. If I do something not that bad, I get 1 mark.
In heaven, like Jesus is doing
yeah, that's how I saw it.
Did you wonder, like, there's probably a lot of marks on my chalkboard?
And I thought if I did something really good, he'd erase 5 marks. Or if I did something kind of good, he'd erase 1 mark.
Have you seen The Good Place?
Yeah. I like that show.
It's like The Good Place, where they have like a score, and then there's people that are in the green and some are in the red.
I think I just got to a point, like, as a kid, where I was like, there's no way I'm going to heaven because I have way too many bad marks, and there's no way I can get rid of all of them unless I cure cancer. Like,
I've saved the entire world. Yeah. Wow, that's crazy that you had those thoughts at 13.
Even now, I consider myself to be a very honest person. I just don't see a point in lying. And for like an example, my mom would be like, do you want to do the dishes for me? And I'd be like, no, but I will because I love you.
That's what I'm like with a man.
With your sister?
Yeah.
And my mom would be like, you can't say no to me. And I'm like, I can't lie because then I'll get a bad mark in heaven. And I would even tell that to her. I'd be like, well, I can't lie because then I'll get a bad mark in heaven. But I'm still going to do it, and I'm still going to say yes, that I will do it, but I don't want to do it. Like, it was weird. It was like, I just felt like, I don't know, I just felt like I was constantly getting bad marks for things and constantly getting good marks for things. And all I could do was try my best.
Yeah, it's so much pressure, especially put on a child. All these bad marks that you're like constantly thinking of.
Like I don't know. I just assumed I was getting bad marks even if I didn't know what I did wrong.
Yeah. Well, especially because there's probably times where you got abused and didn't know why.
Literally,
why am I getting hit right now?
literally thought of that. Because sometimes Daniel or my mom, they'd be like, "Here's a slap for this. Here's a slap for that. Here's a slap for this, and here's 3 more for this." And in my head, I was like, "So that's a mark in heaven. That's a mark in heaven. That's a mark in heaven."
Wow. I feel like if we get abused on earth, then we don't get the bad mark in heaven. Right? We paid for it on earth.
That
right?
was the repentance, right?
I guess the repentance, so it's a little lessening. I don't know. It's so much stress, though. I've even heard Mormons talking about how much, ex-Mormons talking about how much pressure baptism puts on a child to be good.
Yeah, I mean, at the time I was like, makes sense. But now that's crazy.
You're 8 years old.
Having an 8-year-old be responsible for eternal damnation or not? Are you kidding me?
It's ridiculous. They
don't even know how to like do anything.
One thing I like to ask Daniel's family is about the incest, because that's one thing that your dad and my dad had in common, was they married their half-sisters. So my dad only married one of his half-sisters, that's his 3rd wife, but your dad married, Daniel. It's so weird to say your dad because no one even called him dad. Everyone in Daniel's family called him Daniel. No one calls him dad.
I was raised being told I had to call him by his name.
Really?
Only certain kids were allowed to call him dad.
Which ones? His favorites? The first wife?
I don't know.
Weird.
Some of them were allowed to, and I just wasn't one of those kids.
Wow, that's weird.
Or my mom's family just wasn't one of those kids.
That's kind of similar to my family, but they were lying to me about my dad being my dad because my mom was the 2nd wife. So the first wife's kids would call him dad, and then they would just flat out lie and say he wasn't my dad.
Well, my mom, she would be like, this is who your dad is, but you're going to call him Daniel because there's dangerous people in the world that want to hurt him, and we want to protect him. And so in order to protect him, we're not going to acknowledge that he is your dad.
Right.
We're just going to call him Daniel. And if anyone asks who your parents are, tell them that your mom is Kelly. If like it was basically like they should know who your parents are. And if that doesn't answer their question, then they can ask your mom who your dad is.
Wow.
So I like wasn't really allowed to. I mean, of course, in school, I would see kids with the number 15 on their binder, and I'd be like, "Where do you have a 15?" They'd be like, "It's my dad's number."
Yeah, that's my dad's number.
And I was like, "That's my dad's number."
Holy crap! So you had all these siblings you're going to school with that you didn't even know they were siblings.
Yeah. I literally was at church one time, and I saw Daniel hugging twins that were my half sisters, and I asked my mom, I was like, "How come he's hugging those random girls?" And she's like, "Oh, those are your half sisters."
Oh my god.
And I was like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense."
So for viewers who don't know, number 15 was was Daniel's number, and the numbering system. I've done so many videos on this, but it's basically when you have a number, it's like your ticket to heaven. That's what I thought it was. Like my dad had number 36. Yeah. Not every member has a number, but the numbered men are like there's a bunch of theories on it.
Of men.
Right, the holiest of men. Some people say it's like they're taking the script from the scripture verse of like there's something in the Bible that talks about 144,000 walking with God or something. So people claim that they think that it's the order numbering those 144,000 that are going to be walking with God. Who knows? But Daniel, which is her dad, it would be number 15. And so there was a thing that went around the order where they would wear the numbers of their dad. So we would go to advanced copy and we'd get shirts with number 36. It was like we're of number 36 family. And that's also how I knew who was in what family. If there was a 48, I'd be like, oh, that's Jesse's family.
Yeah.
If there was a 26, oh, that's Kent's family.
It's like sporting a team. It's so funny.
Yeah, it really is. And because your family is bigger than a football team. So that's interesting though. So you were like uncovering who were your siblings slowly over time because he had 14 wives and probably over 200 kids?
The last number I've heard someone actually count is like 173 or 163 or something like that. But honestly, I just rounded up at this point because are you counting people that passed? Are you like who? Like,
yeah, that's
I don't know. I just rounded up.
Right. And are you counting the ones that left him? Like that's still your siblings. So yeah, that still counts as Daniel's kids.
And you get into the whole like, are you counting each pregnancy or like only the ones born? Because you have to also take into account pregnancies. If you're experiencing that many pregnancies in your lifetime, I feel like that should count. Even if you didn't get an actual baby out of it, you were still pregnant.
Did your mom have a lot of miscarriages?
Not that I know of. I'm on the younger side, but I had sisters that had a lot of miscarriages where it was like they were pregnant, visibly pregnant, and then they just never had a baby.
Wow.
So in my head, when you're taught the way you're taught in the order, it's like you have all these kids in heaven waiting to be born. So in my head, that baby that didn't make it at that time, I was like, oh, that baby's just never going to be born then.
Really?
So in my head, I counted those. Nowadays, I'm like pro-choice, so I don't really care. It's just a clump of cells. but back then, I literally thought like
that was the soul that was supposed to be born.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just rounded up.
Did you ever have a fear? I guess we didn't even talk about this. There's been so much we've talked about. We didn't even touch on
much to talk about.
Direction, prepping for marriage, being a girl in the order that's so shoved down your throat, I feel like, as a young girl. For me, it was first grade when I first started to pray about direction. Do you remember?
I don't think I remember actually praying for direction. I think I was just in my own world, doing my own thing, and then I had a dream of a really hot anime guy.
You're like, I had direction, I'm supposed to marry.
And so then I gossiped with my friends. Guys, I had this dream, it must have been direction. And then later that week I had another dream, and instead of it being a hot anime guy, it was a kid in my class. And so then I told my friends, there's a kid in my class, so I had direction. I think I'm going to tell Daniel that I had direction on this kid. And I was like 11. And so eventually I told my mom, and she's like, yeah, go ahead, tell him, I don't care. And so then I'm dancing with Daniel one of these days at a dance, and I told him, I was like, yeah, I've been wanting to tell you I had direction on this person in my class. Here's what the dream was. I don't know if that's who I'm going to marry or not. And his only response was, how old are you? And I was like, 11. And he's like, okay, it's about time you start thinking about this. And in my dream, like what I told him was like, yeah, it was weird. It was like, I was having a wedding with this person, and then at my wedding, everyone was like saying, happy birthday, happy sweet 16. And so I think I get married when I'm 16. And he's like, yeah, that makes sense. So I was under the impression, based on that one talk that I had with Daniel and the 3 talks that I had with my mom, I was under the impression that I already knew who I was going to marry and that it was going to be when I was 16.
Wow. What family was the boy in?
It was kind of embarrassing though, because like I obviously had a crush on this kid.
I hated that because that's how they would find out who your crushes were. So you're like tattletelling on yourself.
I know, right? I have direction on this person. Okay, now you're not allowed to marry that person.
Yep.
Because you had the direction, not me.
So Daniel asks his own kids to dance, and that's his like father-daughter time?
I asked him to dance.
Oh, to talk about this very
Yeah.
important matter of
Yeah.
getting married.
I had to arrange that very important meeting.
Wow.
So I had to ask Daniel to dance, and he said yes.
I feel like his time was so, like you probably
It was
saw,
valuable.
yeah.
It felt like.
And the fact that he's like, how old are you? That probably felt so like, Dad, like what the hell?
I didn't
For
even
me,
think of it that way.
Really?
At that time, I was like, oh, I'm 11.
oh, like
He
it was
never
a
showed up
joke.
to any of my birthdays. How is he supposed to know how old I am?
Oh, I have a question for you. For birthdays, in Jesse's family, there was like one wife that was in charge of getting the birthday presents like that are from Jesse, from your dad to you. Did they have a system like that in Daniel's family?
I mean, my mom would just get me presents, and they would just always say mommy and daddy.
And you're like, I know,
Sorry, I don't like that word, it's so
daddy. You're like, I know
I
that
knew
guy
it was
didn't go
just
shopping for me.
And like, even when I left the order and I was like in foster care and my mom was still in contact with me, she would give me a Christmas present and it would say, love mommy and daddy. And I'm like,
You're like, that bitch doesn't even remember my name. When Daniel spelled Andrea's name wrong on Escaping Polygamy, do you remember this? He spelled his own daughter's name Andria. Yeah, yeah. He just, and so part of me was like, was he trying to do that, or is he just not, he really just does not give a shit about any of his kids? Because even when he was in court and the judge asked how many kids he has with Heidi Foster when they were going to have their kids go to foster care, he couldn't even tell you how many kids he had with Heidi.
yeah,
I'm just so shocked.
I didn't realize the situation I was in. I didn't realize what kind of person Daniel was until I did. And then when I realized, I was like, oh, he doesn't give a crap about us.
Yeah.
Like with Rachel committing suicide and the way he talked about her, I was like, oh, we are literally just a number to him. He doesn't give a crap about us.
He literally doesn't care if we live or die.
And then it got confirmed when I was in court one time. I literally heard Daniel and Laura talking because she was
Laura's
somehow
one,
his lawyer.
Yeah, Laura is one of Daniel's wives who is one of the lawyers for the order.
Yeah. But I just remember them like whispering, and she's like, by the way, it's this person's birthday next weekend. And he's like, okay, I'll put that in my calendar. And so in my head, I was like, he literally has Laura or his wives having to remind him that his kids exist.
Yep.
And to be there for his kids. Like,
At that point, don't you think you have too many kids? They don't care though. And it is just a number. It's a numbers game. And it's like, oh, well, I've even heard talks in my family like, well, yeah, we've had a lot of people leave, but we have more people in the order. So the numbers are higher here. It's like,
It's just another positive mark in heaven. I'm just kidding.
yeah, and to me, the way that they talk about how selfish we are for not having kids out here, you've heard this, right? People who choose not to have kids are very selfish. It is so much more selfish to have kids for your own celestial kingdom gain. Like the only reason you're having them is to make it to the celestial kingdom. Is that not the most selfish thing ever? To bring a life on this earth just so that you can get brownie points in heaven. You're not having any regard for the child's well-being or safety or anything. Like, their purpose is for your gain. Like, that is the most selfish thing. I can't think of anything more selfish than to have a child out of your own selfish gain.
Yeah.
Disgusting. But also, one thing I want to touch on is, do you remember them always talking about how there was a story of this guy, this haunted me in the order. He died alone in his apartment and no one knew for weeks because no one even cared about him. And it's so sad. And isn't it so lucky that we're here in the order and that would never happen because we have so much family and blah, 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 blah. So that was one of my greatest fears when I left the order. What if I die and no one knows? And like they find my body like weeks later because no one gives a shit about me. But then I thought about it and I was like, you know what's worse? Being Daniel and having your own kids excited for you to
It's
die.
gonna be a new holiday. I swear, I'm waiting.
There will
I would
literally
say that.
be a celebration when he dies and his own kids will be throwing it. Is that not worse than dying alone? Like your own family is excited for you to die.
I don't know, my perspective on that is very different because of how suicidal I was for so long, my whole life.
Yeah.
So when I thought about death, it wasn't like something I was afraid of. It was something that I wanted to happen. And especially at the younger ages, I was like, with getting beat or bullied, I was like, I'm somehow gonna die and they're gonna realize that they fucked me up too bad. Like, they're gonna realize they did this to me and they're gonna feel bad for basically killing me.
Yeah.
Like, I literally thought that I was gonna get beat to death sometimes.
That is
And
crazy.
so to me, I wasn't worried about like, oh, dying alone. I just assumed I would eventually die and hopefully people would feel bad that I died.
Wow. Okay, so we were talking about this before we started the camera again. You wanted to discuss how you got to the suicidal.
Oh, like
right?
when it started?
Yeah.
So I've never, like, not never, but it's very unusual for me to hear of other people with similar experiences or being this young thinking about suicide. So part of me feels like it might be important just to mention, to kind of give context. But my first suicide attempt was when I was about 5 or 6 years old. I didn't even understand what I was doing. All I knew was that hopefully I wouldn't wake up because of what I was doing. And it's super depressing.
Well, yeah, definitely.
But I just always, like after a beating or after something bad happened, I would just be crying and I'd be praying to God to take me back. I'd be like, please take me back. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to be alive anymore. And so I remember like being 7 and like running to the bathroom with a knife, intending to kill myself. And I was like too scared to do it. And so that's when I got down on all knees and I was like, please just kill me somehow. Just like get me out of here.
Maybe, do you think too, your brain was like, well, the way they talk about heaven, it sounds great. So maybe I'll just go return to heaven.
Yeah. To me, I was like, well, I'm God's child. And he's just watching me go through this horrible life. And so I was like, just take me back. I can't do this.
I want to redo. Yeah.
Especially when I was like, once I turned 8, I am accountable for all my sins, basically. And so I was like, I gotta do this now. And so, I don't know, I obviously didn't do anything at 7, but I was 8 years old when I started self-harming because it was a similar situation where I was so upset and so hurt that I wanted to die. And I was just a little kid and I didn't understand what was going on and I was scared. And so I would kind of practice on myself with a pair of scissors. And it just became a thing where ever since I was 8 years old, if I was suicidal, I would go hide somewhere, be crying, and I'd be like holding a pair of scissors and being like, I'm gonna kill myself, until eventually I just hurt myself.
Do you feel like it gave you a sense of control? Because you had no control over the abuse that was happening to you, all the situations that were happening, they were happening to you over and over and over again. And this moment, yeah.
I was so young, I didn't even understand what was going on. And it took a lot of therapy to even remember that this stuff happened. When I first left the order, I was like, I never attempted suicide. I don't even hurt myself that much. But then going through therapy and unraveling all this trauma,
you're like, oh,
I was like, I was actually shocked by how many times I actually attempted and how young I was.
Yeah.
But I just remember it became, so I started when I was like 8, but it became like an addiction, I would say, when I was probably 10 or 11.
Okay.
And it started becoming this form of punishment to myself because one morning, I would always sleep in because I would stay up really late. So I'd sleep in and my mom would get really upset and be like, you're making us late to school. You're making us late. And so one day I was on the top bunk and she grabbed me and like she grabbed my shirt and just like ripped me off and put me on the ground and was like slamming me into the ground and like yelling at me like, I told you to wake up already. Get your clothes on. We're going now. And that's how I woke up. I didn't even remember being woke up at all, other than just being thrown to the ground and screamed at.
You're like, and that's my day to day.
And so I just remember sitting there and looking in the mirror and seeing like the scratch marks. Oh, my bad. I just remember seeing the scratch marks on my chest that my mom left, and it was bleeding. And in my mind, I was looking in the mirror and I was like, this is my punishment. This is what I deserve for making everyone late. Yeah. And so it became this thing where, with me being suicidal and me already like experimenting with self-harm, it became a thing where the next time I got in trouble with my mom, I got hit, but I didn't bleed. And so in my mind, I was like, how am I supposed to learn? How am I supposed to be a better order member if I don't bleed, if I don't pay, if I don't get what I deserve?
This sounds so much like, sorry, I keep looking at here because I feel like it's cutting you off, so I'm gonna move it a little bit. But I've had an interview with someone where I don't think we ever published this part because it was so dark, and I don't know if they were comfortable talking about. Yeah. Like they were comfortable talking about it, but
it gets
public.
Dark.
But it's so like they said the same thing where they felt like they had to be punished. They got in this weird routine of if they were not getting punished, something bad was going to happen. It's like this. I'm again not a psychologist, but it almost sounds like a form of PTSD, a form of.
For sure.
Yeah, getting to it before anyone else can get to it, kind of a thing. But it's I can't really map it out because it's such a, not everyone goes through this, obviously.
It was definitely PTSD, and I think maybe control had something to do with it, but I also think the brainwashing and me being so desperate to be a good order member and be a good kid and to get to heaven, to get those good marks, I honestly felt like my mom was being neglectful by not hurting me enough to teach me a lesson to where I could learn and improve. So I basically took it upon myself to teach myself that lesson, to punish myself enough to learn to improve. Because the way they taught it to me as a kid was, how do you teach a dog? Obviously, this isn't how you teach a dog, but they'd be like, how do you train a dog? You smack them on top of the nose, and then they learn.
And you're as a kid, you're a sponge soaking up all of this information that's really negative and self-hate vibes, right? But you think that you piece it together as, I'm just going to make sure that I get into the celestial kingdom by punishing myself enough to make me come correct.
I had that mindset of, how am I supposed to learn if I'm not being punished? And so it got to a point where my mom didn't even have to hit me anymore. She, of course, still did, but it just got to a point where if I felt bad enough for what I had done or what I was in trouble for, I would just punish myself. So when I was about 10 or 11 years old, it became a weekly thing where anytime I felt really bad about myself, that's just what I did, because I thought I was essentially teaching myself how to be a better person. Yeah. Like, to me, it was just so normal, and now I look back on that and that's crazy. Yeah. That's like scary.
It is. It definitely is. And it only could, I feel like that kind of mindset could only thrive in a place like the Order, right? In a place
there has to be abuse and neglect.
Oh, yeah. Like, you're not going to naturally want to hurt yourself when you're in a loving family that's nurturing you and helping you to have a healthy relationship with yourself. I was going to ask a question about life after, but is there anything else you wanted to cover about in the Order?
I think if I were to just like lay things out in like a life map, then people, if there's questions, I can always go more into it in the future. But it's the suicidal feelings started when I was 5. I was self-harming really badly when I was like 8 or 10. And then I thought everything was normal. My life was what it was. I didn't realize it was abusive. And then when I was 13, so much changed so quickly that I couldn't stay.
Yeah, that was the year the assault happened, and then in the same year, the suicide of your sister.
Yeah. So like, my birthday's in March, so I barely turned 13, and in my head, I was just focused on, oh, I'm turning 13, so now we're gonna talk about direction, and we're gonna start preparing for me to get married, and I'm gonna get a job. And like, I was expecting to do
what all
that.
the other girls that age are doing.
I was just expecting to do what everyone else is doing. But then in the summertime, I was assaulted, everyone found out, I got in a lot of trouble. I was being bullied at school. And it was like this huge thing. I was just so terrified by everything.
Mm-hmm. There was no safe space, yeah.
And so Rachel, honestly, like I had my friends, but Rachel was the one person that I would go to for the darkest things. Mm-hmm. We'd seen each other. We'd seen the self-harm on each other. We had cried to each other and messaged each other what we were experiencing. And, you know, she'd be on the bus one day and she'd tell me how Daniel beat the crap out of her for some reason, and how she hated him and how she wanted to not be alive anymore. Yeah. And it was like that thing that me and her, we had a really strong relationship because we both felt so horrible.
Yeah, but you had that place where you could openly talk about it and be vulnerable with each other.
Yeah. So we'd like kind of support each other. Like I remember countless nights of me crying, thinking I was going to lose Rachel, and being like, just hold on a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And also being like, well, here's what I experienced and with that summer, and you know, here's why these things are happening, and here's why people are treating me differently. Here's the truth. And I like told her all that stuff. And then she committed suicide.
So you did kind of see it coming, but you thought maybe she would hold off, or maybe...
I was hoping that she would hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so hard.
I don't know, it's a lot, but I was always worried. At least for like 2 years, I would say I was always so worried about her. Yeah. And of course you don't want to believe the worst thing. You want to believe the best thing possible. And then when she did end up committing suicide, my whole world shattered. Yeah. My life was already like on the edge. And then like the one person that understood what I was going through, that I was open with about everything, didn't survive. Yeah. And it was world shattering for me, because that's when I saw how my other siblings felt about Daniel and how they talked about Daniel, and the things that they said, like, yeah, Daniel said this horrible thing about Rachel and blah, 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 blah. And I'm sitting here like, how could he say that about his own daughter? Were people defending Rachel? At least some of your siblings defending Rachel? And I would say the day that she committed suicide, it is a very hard day.
I'm sure, yeah.
It was a very hard day. We had just moved into a new house, and I had no idea. And all of a sudden, all of these girls that were like in the same age group, that were our half sisters, started showing up and going to my sister's room. And I'm sitting like, why does everyone look so mad? I'm just sitting there minding my own business, unpacking my stuff in my room. And one of the girls comes to me and is talking to me like I knew what was going on.
So all of your sisters are coming over to your house and you're still unpacking?
Yeah, and I was like, oh, okay, they're just hanging out, I guess. I don't know why everyone looks so mad. And then one of the girls comes in and is talking to me as if I knew what was going on. And she was like, yeah, so this is what I said to this person. And then I see in the messages that she's showing me, oh, she hung herself. And I was like, wait, who did? And she's like, Rachel. And I was like, what?
That's how
Are you serious? Out. And she's like, yeah, Rachel committed suicide. She hung herself. And I was like, when? This morning. And I literally just broke down crying.
Yeah.
And so me and that girl, we cried together. And it just was this thing. And she's like, you didn't know? And I was like, no, nobody told me.
Oh, that's so frustrating.
And so she's like, here, we're all in your sister's room talking about this right now. You should join us. And so I went into there, and it was like this big group of girls that were all sisters. We all loved her, and we were all mourning her. And it was almost like this weird like group therapy type thing, where it was like we were all crying. We were all talking about good memories and how much we cared about her. And then also people were being like, oh, and Daniel said this, and he did this, and he's being disrespectful to her in this way, and blah, blah, blah. And everyone kind of was like on the same page of like, it's Daniel's fault.
This actually makes me proud, because there was pieces of me that was like, is no one defending her? Because when the whole like him trying not to get a gravestone for her, I was like,
we were mad.
That's so good.
So that's the thing, we were literally talking, we were like, you know what, we're gonna have our own funeral for her then. If Daniel's not gonna have a funeral, we'll throw our own funeral for her. We started making like friendship bracelets and like stuff to like honor her.
It pisses me off because it's like, what the fuck did Daniel think? Everyone was just gonna be like, okay, like it never happened.
Like we didn't care about our sister.
I can't believe that he's able to, I think because he's able to just boop, so he just expects all of the girls who had a relationship with her to just,
We grew up with her, we climbed trees with her.
Like, and she's your sister.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand how that, I get so mad when I talk about Daniel. I hate him so much. I feel like I hate him more than some of his own kids.
That is what caused my perspective to change so much, because with the sexual assault in the summertime, I just blamed myself and Daniel told me I deserved it and all these things. But then seeing how he reacted and how he treated Rachel's death, and seeing my sisters also being upset that he's reacting this way, that was my first time ever even realizing that Daniel was like that. And I just was so mad. I was like, this is horrible. Yeah. And I can't be here. Like, but like, I was suicidal. I didn't think of leaving the order. Yeah. I was so caught up in Rachel died. I should have died. Like,
but it probably put into perspective because you had so many thoughts of, you know, just leaving this earth. How would they act if I had passed away? And then seeing Rachel actually do it, you're like, oh, so this is how it would have happened.
I was so mad. I heard that Daniel threw away all of her stuff. It's actually super like depressing. I heard that she labeled all of her stuff as if it was like her will. This pair of sneakers should go to this person. So they were labeled with that person's name. All of her stuff was labeled to who she wanted to have it. And she had all these suicide notes prepared for different people. I heard Daniel threw everything away and burned the suicide notes until eventually the police were like, you can't do that.
That's evidence.
That's evidence. Yeah. And so they took them, you know, so like a few of them survived, but I heard that he straight up threw everything away and burned everything.
Oh my gosh. He's such a piece of shit.
It was just so horrible. I was like, who does that? That's so horrible. And that's when my whole perspective changed, and I was just suicidal. And everyone knew. I had myself at one point passed out suicide notes to my friends in class, and essentially my parents were like, especially like also with like the whole like repentance every Friday, that was also very prominent in this time.
Right, because this was also the time where he was taking away the stuff that Rachel could have had her demons on or whatever.
And then just on top of that, he targeted me for that other stuff too, because of the summer before.
Oh, he probably knew that you were also passing out suicide notes, do you think? That you were on
at some point, yeah.
Okay.
At some point, people heard about that, and
so everything's piling on. You have the suicide notes.
3 days before I left.
Wow.
Yeah. So 3 days before I left, I was gonna commit suicide, and I passed out those notes. And so essentially, Laura, she was our next door neighbor at the time. She picks me up from my house, and basically kidnapped me and put me in my sister's house, where my sister was like, I heard that you were passing out suicide notes, why, blah, blah, blah. And she questioned me, and I was just so broken down. And she essentially beat the crap out of me because I wouldn't tell her why I was suicidal. Or I wouldn't talk to her.
I don't understand why she thought that that was the move to do on someone who's already so fragile.
Yeah, I don't understand. But she eventually gave up. She was like, you know what? I don't have time for this. I'm gonna put my kids to bed. And so I did end up attempting suicide that day. But I survived. And I went, and it was like the weekend. And so I went to school on Monday, and one of my friends, they're like, nobody spoke to me that whole time. It was so awkward. None of my friends, they just looked at me and would like basically scurry away. I think nobody knew how to talk to me. No one knew what to say.
Maybe there was some talks too about how to handle you or to stay away from you or something.
Yeah, exactly. And I got a note from one of my friends. She was like, please don't take this the wrong way, but why are you still here? I thought you were gonna die. I warned you last night. And I basically told her everything that happened. I was like, yeah, they took me to Laura. Like, Laura picked me up, took me to my sister's house, and now they're threatening to send me to uni on Friday. And I didn't know what uni was. I was just basically given this lie as to, like, this thinking that it was, like, a psych ward from, like, 100 years ago where they lobotomize you and they treat you horribly. I didn't know what to expect. So I was terrified of going to uni. And so I was like, I have to get out of, I can't go to the uni. I'd rather die than go to uni. And
they were probably threatening you too with how bad uni is.
Yeah, exactly. They were telling me horror stories that aren't even true.
Yeah.
And so I was so scared, and I told that to my friend, and she's like, well, what if you just leave? And I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean leave? And this is all through notes during class. We're just passing these notes to each other during class. And she's like, well, I have my brother who left and he like joined the military or something like that. I don't know the whole story. But she's like, I have my brother that left, and yeah, it was weird at first, and you know, we didn't talk to him for a few years, but now we still talk to him. Like, your family's not gonna hate you, and personally, I would rather you be alive out there than dead in here. Yeah. And I was like, huh. I never thought about it that way. I never thought about the possibility of me leaving and actually surviving. I've been suicidal since I was 5 years old. I always just assumed I would be beat to death or something.
Yeah, and I was gonna die young. Yeah.
And so I was like, huh, okay. And with Escaping Polygamy, the first episode had come out like a couple of weeks beforehand or something like that, or maybe a month beforehand. So I do think that played a big part in making me realize that that was an option. Yeah. I did watch the episode, and then I had that conversation through notes with my friend, and so in my head I was like, I can reach out to Chanel and ask for help. Yeah. And I was already, because I was so close with VeeAnne at the time, I was already having communication with VeeAnne by passing notes to her little sister that went to the same school as me.
Joanna?
Yeah.
She's close with Joanna.
Yeah.
For anyone who doesn't know, Chanel is on the show Escaping Polygamy, and Chanel is her half-sister who left, but those notes you were passing was to one of Chanel's sisters, right?
Yeah. I was friends with VeeAnne, and I missed having conversations with her. Never got to see her anymore. So I would tell Joanna, I'd be like, give this to VeeAnne. And so that was like our thing, where I'd go and see Joanna during lunchtime, and I'd get a letter, and then the next lunchtime, I'd give her a letter. And so that's how me and VeeAnne had our conversations, and we tell each other about our day. I loved that. I loved doing that. But then one day, one of these days, all this stuff was happening, and after I got that idea from my friend, I was like instantly writing the letter that you see in the episode, where it was basically explaining my situation and explaining to them that like things are so bad right now, I don't think I'm gonna survive. Yeah. And I need help. And I basically was like, pick me up from school tomorrow. I'll be waiting at this time. And if not, I don't blame you, but just know I don't think I could survive. I don't think there's gonna be another chance.
And then you see that on they go pick her up. But the problem was, like, because you were still a minor, it was hard to figure out how to hold you without them getting in trouble. Yeah.
That day they took me to my aunt's house. I'd never met her before. I didn't even know she existed. And I was like ready to live there, to live with my aunt that I just met.
Your mom's sister?
Yeah.
I think I know who you're talking about. Yeah, she's nice. You're like, okay, I'm living here now.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, cool. I have another family member I didn't know about. And, you know, things were happening, and then all of a sudden, everyone's getting phone calls. I could feel the energy, like, dropping down, and then all of a sudden, Chanel comes to me, and she was so upset. She was like, so they signed a missing persons report, so legally, because we have you and everyone knows that we have you, you have to go back. So there's a police officer coming right now to come pick you up. So eventually, the police officer shows up, and I'm telling him, I'm like, you guys can't put me back here. Like, I need to schedule another meeting with you guys because I should not be going back. This is not okay. Yeah. And so he's like, okay, you're going back tonight, but we'll schedule a meeting tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning where we can reassess the situation. But then that night, my parents drove me to uni.
And
so
uni is like a juvenile.
it's the Utah hospital, but like in the psych ward for minors.
Okay.
So I was put in the psych ward at the hospital for minors.
It wasn't Lifeline, was it?
No, not yet.
Oh, Lifeline will be coming up.
Yeah, so they sent me to uni, and eventually I was able to get my story out to the workers there. I think it's actually kind of a crazy story that I'd be willing to go into in the future, but they didn't have room for me. And normally they probably wouldn't have accepted me, but they listened to my story and they heard me say like, like I'm in a cult, I'm trying to leave, I'm being punished for trying to leave. If I go back, who knows what they're gonna do to me? Yeah. And so they made an exception and literally had me sleep in an office room on a mat.
Wow.
And because the next day someone was going to be a room was going to be available, so they had me sleep in an office room, and you know I was there, I was admitted. A couple days later, I get a visitor, or maybe the next day, something like that. Soon after, I get a visitor, and it's Chanel and my aunt, and they explained to me that they got a case opened up, and that they're going to fight with me, and so that's.
This is the hard
how
part.
I left.
This is like, how the hell are you supposed to know how to open a case, how to do all these legal things, especially being in the order when they're saying that they are not abusing you. Mm-hmm. They're lying about what abuse actually is. You think that the police are going to be on their side.
Yeah.
So you don't know what your options are other than suicide.
I just remember the lies my mom told. Some of it was true, like with the suicidal ideation and the self-harm. She did mention that to the people, to the staff when she was admitting me, but she made up all these lies about how I was a drug addict, and I was an alcohol addict, and I was a sex addict, and all these things.
And she's telling them this stuff in front of you?
Yeah.
And you're like...
I'm literally like, what? Since when? What do you mean?
How are you getting access to alcohol when you're literally in a cult?
Literally in my head, I'm like, my mom is just lying right now. What? My mom can lie?
Yeah.
I don't know, it was just crazy to me. And so...
that would be like the ultimate form of betrayal. Like,
yeah.
What the hell is going on here?
And I don't know, it just, that happened. I realized what situation I was in very, very quickly. Like all this happened within like a year. My life was normal, and then all of a sudden it wasn't.
Yeah, that's crazy. And it's so sad too because you're over here just literally... you are literally self-harming to get into the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
You believe in the order. You believe
I thought
in
I was
stuff.
doing the right thing.
And here they are throwing you under the bus because you're not doing everything that they want. You know what I mean? It's like such a weird dynamic. And I feel like if you were in the outside world, you could fight back and be like, oh, do a drug test on me. I'm not doing drugs.
Yeah,
you know?
but I
you don't
didn't know about that.
Right, because you're a product of the cult.
But the funny thing is like the professionals being the professionals, they obviously, as procedure, did do a drug test, and it came back clean.
Oh, so
chances are, I mean, I don't know. I didn't confirm any of this. I didn't know this stuff at the time, but like looking back on it, I'm like, they probably literally were like, this kid is not anything that her parents are describing, but what she's describing sounds very real. Mm-hmm. She's saying she's trying to escape a court or a cult. I don't know. It was just this crazy situation where I was mad at the time and I was scared at the time, but now I'm actually really, really grateful that they put me in uni instead of taking me home.
Yeah.
Because me being in uni is essentially what got me out instead of letting me hurt myself again.
Yeah. So it was kind of, in a way, it was kind of protecting you.
To then talk about like being in foster care, because I still have this whole journey of like being forced to go back and living with my mom again, and like, oh, family therapy this, family therapy that, and the video on my channel where it's like, oh, I'm not welcome here. I did start it when I was in the order. Those videos don't exist anymore.
Oh, you took them down? Okay.
But after leaving and being in foster care, there are a couple videos in there of the experience. Like, for example, I literally have a video titled "I'm Not Welcome Here," and it was the day my mom finally said, if you're not going to join the order again, you're not welcome in the house.
Wow.
And
okay.
So you could see my mental breakdown live. I'm just kidding.
Click the link down below.
Like, there's still so much stuff that happened that I didn't feel like I escaped until I turned 18.
Wow.
I felt like I was still being re-traumatized through foster care with all of this family therapy, with all of this mandatory at-home visits.
Because they were forcing you to monthly go see your family?
Yeah, I would literally visit my mom at least once a month. And every time it was always either showering me with gifts and being like, we're praying for you, we want you to come back, blah, 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 we love you. Or it'd be like, if you don't come back, then this, blah, 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 like threatening, like, I never knew what to expect. I just wanted to see my siblings.
Yeah.
I didn't even want to see my mom. I didn't want to go back. I never wanted to go back.
Right.
I just wanted to see my siblings because I cared about them.
Yeah.
And
well,
also,
it's hard to all of a sudden cut off.
Also, this is kind of random, but like, where the fuck was Allison?
Yeah,
in my mind,
question.
I was, because they didn't tell me. Allison, I left in January. Allison left around the end of that year. Mm-hmm. And so as I'm being pressured to go back home and like have these visits, Allison's just gone.
And no one explained anything?
No one explained anything to me. I'd ask my mom, where's Allison?
This is such a common theme in your family specifically. It was like no one's fucking letting each other know what's going on ever. Like just
it was just all these unspoken things.
Yeah.
Just the elephant in the room everyone ignores.
Yeah. When did you find out Allison left too?
I called my guardian ad litem, and I had spent about a week mourning Allison. I had convinced myself that she committed suicide.
Oh my God.
And that nobody told me because they didn't want it to influence me.
Wow.
And so I was like, she's dead. My sister's dead. I haven't seen her in how many months? I haven't heard of her in how many months?
And they're just
and no one's telling me. They literally are like, we can't tell you. We can't talk about that. I was like, what? What do you mean?
Yeah.
She's my sister. And especially with my judge being like, family needs to stay together, but you're not going to keep me with my sister?
Yeah, that's weird.
Weird. Paid off. Weird. But eventually I'm crying to my therapist, and my therapist convinces me to call my guardian ad litem and to call my caseworker and to talk to them about this because I deserve to know.
Right.
Where's my sister? And finally, I set up a meeting with my guardian ad litem in person. They wouldn't just tell me over the phone. They saw me in person.
It even more scary.
I know. I was like, oh, she's dead. But like, they're like, yeah. So she actually ran away a few months ago. Blah blah blah. Like they tell me, like, yeah, she ran away. She's also in the court system. She has the same judge as you, but we want to keep this separate. We don't want to blah 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 blah. And so I was just so happy that she was still alive.
So I was gonna say, like, I would be so relieved.
Like
you're like gearing up to the news. And
I was.
Like, oh, she's.
I straight up thought she was dead.
That's so sad.
And they say no, she just left. And so then I was like, oh, okay. I had no idea she wanted to leave. Like it was so weird.
It's crazy too to hear like.
And then I went back to my own life.
Well, like to hear Allison's story. Like we've done a whole video on Allison's story. I'll leave it linked down below if you guys want to hear it. But her story and your story, it's like you guys are both struggling so much, not knowing that each other was struggling so much. In the same house.
I watched that video when it came out, and I was so shocked. Really? It was so, I literally was like sitting there like, all of this stuff that we were experiencing literally 5 feet away from each other, I had no idea.
It's crazy.
I had no idea.
This is why too, like I love when we can talk about this publicly, because sometimes it's the only way that some order members feel validated and heard, because I truly believe there are so many order members going through the same things that you went through, the same thought process.
Thinking they're the only one.
Yep.
That's how I was.
Yep, there's so many. And it's sad. It's sad that there's so many, but at least we can have some way where they can see you hearing your story and feeling seen and heard in a way, by knowing that they're not the only one that had to go through it, you know.
And another thing I think is important with people sharing their story, or specifically with me sharing my story, I remember talking to my half-brother, like when I was in foster care and all that stuff. I remember talking to my half-brothers and my half-sisters and them not understanding why I was leaving and me having to explain to them. And they would like, this is why I'm leaving. Daniel did this, he did that, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, but how do we know you're not just making this up?
Then why'd you even ask? If you're not gonna believe my answer, don't ask.
Well, I just got to a point where I'm like, everyone's experience is so different. We might be living in the same house, but we're not living the same lives. Right. We don't have the same brain. And I was big into like mental illness and therapy at that time, because I was learning about mental illness and I was learning about what I had. and what I was diagnosed with and what I was struggling with.
Communicating that to someone in the order is like
who doesn't even understand what you're talking about. Those words don't exist. And I'm just like, well, everyone has a different brain, and so even if me and you had the exact same life, simply because your brain is different, you're going to cope and interpret and react and live your life differently than how I would have, because my brain is different. And so I just...
Because they don't get it. They don't...
Everyone's experience is so different. Because he didn't understand. He was like, well, I'm not suicidal.
Okay, good for you.
Yeah, exactly. He was like, well, Daniel did this to me, and I don't care, you know, and I'm fine. Okay, but that's you.
Yeah.
I'm talking about me.
Yeah. When were we talking about you again? Yeah, because I feel like for a long time I would guilt and shame myself because of that. Like, well, I did this and I'm still in the order and I was beat, but I still found bloom where you're planted. I hate it. My mom would say that. She had it on the fridge. Bloom where you're planted.
My mom would say, when in Rome, do as the Romans do.
What does that mean?
This is completely off topic, but I'm Therian, and so I would wear a tail. And when I would have visits with my mom in foster care, I'd be wearing my tail. And my mom would be like, don't wear that in my house. And I'm like, why not? And she's like, when in Rome, when in Rome. And I was like, but I'm not in Rome, I'm in Utah.
I feel like they said quotes of things that didn't make sense. My mom used words in the wrong context all the time too.
Yeah.
And I would continue to use them on the outside. And people would correct me.
People are like, actually,
you're not that smart. I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, I think that we can end it somewhere around here if you feel like you've gotten for the most part out, and then we can have, because this is almost 2 hours worth.
Damn.
So we could have 1 hour on my channel, 1 hour on yours, and then we're gonna have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And we can do follow-up, because we haven't even touched on, there is so much in her story, you guys. I want to do an episode on experience in the psych ward, because I feel like there's so much, including my own opinions of the psych ward, because I've never been to one.
Yeah.
There's so much.
Been to multiple.
See, and you could have so much insight on if you think it actually works, if you feel like it helped you. There's probably some that you liked, some that you didn't like, things that you think could be better, as well as you struggled with homelessness for a little while after leaving. There's so much insight in that we could be asking her, as well as marriage and divorce. I'm in that club right there. So let us know your guys' comments, questions. Leave them in the description, or leave them in the comment box down below. I would love to do a live stream with you if you're down, and then we could live answer your guys' questions. Since I might be here for a while, we'll be able to film whatever episodes you want to film. I really like the psych ward. Diving into the psych ward, diving into homelessness, diving into...
These are all things that I plan on talking about eventually. I don't know. I'm at a point in my life where, like, my YouTube channel is essentially a video diary of myself. And so I was kind of just waiting until I got to a point in life where I was ready to talk about all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what I would say is, if people are interested in knowing more, chances are there's going to be more on my channel. And my other videos are what they are. You get what you get.
Go like and subscribe. It's kind of cool to be able to go back and see who you were versus who you are now and the growth.
Oh, dude. My most viewed video, I laugh and cringe to this day, but I can't delete it because it's a part of who I am. It's a part of my journey.
And because I was noticing, because I go to, like, when I go to people's YouTube channels, I go to the button that's the most popular video, and I clicked it and I was like, that has 200,000 views?
Yeah.
It's crazy the amount of views you got.
It was right in the prime of cringe culture, and it was perfect content for cringe culture.
Oh no, the video stopped.
That's okay.